Now, one of the joys of having young children is being reintroduced to some wonderful classic children's books that I remember from my childhood. Now, one of them is a famous book called We're Going on a Bear Hunt by Michael Rosen. I know it would be familiar to many of you. And in that book, a family go on a journey, a bear hunt, and they meet lots of different obstacles. So one of the obstacles, for example, is they come against thick, oozy mud. And of course, in the story, every time they reach an obstacle like this mud, they say, we can't go over it, we can't go under it, we can't go around it, we've got to go through it. Squelch, 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 and so on. Now, for me, I think this might be a really good summary of what Advent is all about. Because I think Advent is that season, that time, when we as a church, when we as individuals try to spend a bit more time working with God and through God, some of the things that are on our mind. Life, with all its difficulty and complexity, its stresses and its strains. Life. And our relationship with God, again with its complexity. Sometimes we feel really close to God, don't we? We feel like He's with us. Maybe sometimes He feels distant to us. We feel our relationship is strained. But Advent's that time where perhaps we try to, and I know I'm trying to this Advent, just spend a little bit more time with Him. Trying to park some time in the day to say, I need to sit down in God in prayer to talk about my relationship with Him. So in our life, in our relationship with God, sometimes we want to escape it. Sometimes we want to go over it, or under it, or around it, avoid it. But quite often, we have to go through it. We have to face it. And that can be so difficult for us. And I think it's so difficult when we sometimes do have things on our mind, pains, struggles, past hurts and trauma, all those things that we want to avoid, we want to escape, we want to find an easy answer, but sometimes we have to face up to it. We've got to go through that journey. And Advent is that journey. And of course, we see this in the world because Advent has that tense relationship in the church with Christmas because we really want to get to Christmas as quickly as possible. Stuff all that preparation. Let's open the presents straight away. Let's get out the Christmas lights and the Christmas tree. I'm sure lots of you have already done that. So I've got the tree at home ready to go. We want to start the celebration. But sometimes we just need to prepare. Sometimes we need to wait. And sometimes we just got to spend that time with God. I see that tension in the two key people in the Advent story. One is the person we're introduced today, Luke, John the Baptist. John the Baptist, this wild man. He looked like a hairy biker, but he spoke more like Gordon Ramsay. He was a really serious guy. Serious. And sometimes, you know what? We need John the Baptist. When we come to church, when we celebrate, church is a serious business, isn't it? And John the Baptist had a strong message to say to everybody. He took responsibility for the world and the sin and all the things that were going on that were wrong. And he said to people, he proclaimed it out loud in a direct way. I find it really difficult when people are direct with me. My wife is direct with me sometimes, quite honest. But we need people to be direct to us sometimes, to say it as it is. And that's what the kind of person that John the Baptist was. He said it how it was. He said, look at this world we live in. Look at the mess. Look at the sin around. Look at your relationship with God. Look how far you've strayed from what God wanted from us. And so John the Baptist, in the wilderness, outside of the main city where people lived, he called people to come to him, to the banks of the River Jordan, and he said, repent. Now, repent is a strong word. And repent is a life-changing word. Because it means turn your life around. John the Baptist was telling people, turn your life around. Turn your life against sin. Start afresh. Re-energize your relationship with God. And he did that through the ministry of baptism. We need John the Baptist's word in the church today and in the world. We need somebody, and that can be the church collectively, it can be individual voices, but we need sometimes to speak loud and clear that the world isn't as it should be. It's not, is it? And there's the tension of Advent and tension of this journey as we approach Christmas. I think we've all perhaps seen on the news the story of that young boy, Arthur Lavinia Hughes. And I don't want to talk about it really. I find it really hard to talk about. Reading the news story, I just wanted to close it up. Close the pages. I don't want to talk about that kind of thing. It's just so horrific. It's just so awful. It's just so sad. But I think, and I don't really have any answers to that, and that's one of the things about Advent. Sometimes you just want to bring to God those things about this world that are just awful and terrible. But, again, it's one of those things. It's a John the Baptist thing where the temptation for us is to say, well, we want to go around that. We want to go over it. We want to go under it. We don't want to hear that. We want to hide ourselves from that. We want to escape from it. Find a nice place where we don't need to talk about those things that happen in the world. But we in the church, because I said the church is a serious place, we do need to talk about it. We do need to face up to it. We do need to kind of say, look, this world is a wonderful world, but there's lots of things in this world that are wrong and terrible and evil. And individual people need to take responsibility for that. But society also needs to take a collective responsibility. And so we're not going to avoid this issue. We're always going to work towards finding out why these things happen, what we can do to prevent them. How can communities and families come together more? We have to go through that. And that's what Advent is all about. John the Baptist saying to the world, saying to us, repent, turn your life around, spend more time with God. Of course, the other person that's important in Advent is the person that we keep talking about in the church, the person that we're looking forward to, the person who will be born on Christmas Day, Jesus. Now, he was a very different character from John the Baptist. Very different. Had a bit of hair, I think. He might have had a beard. Who knows? But through Jesus, we get a glimpse. We were face to face with what God was really like. And his message after John the Baptist, his cousin who prepared the way for him, was that in this broken, messy world, God is here with us. God is not avoiding this as well. God is not going over it, looking down on us. He's not going under it. He's not going around it. He's with us. God moved into the area. He moved into Byker and Walker. He moved here to be with us in Newcastle. And so as we talk about church in a very serious place, a place where we repent, where we say, look, the world isn't as it should be. In church we point to what God is really like. The God of love, the God of grace, the God who died for us. So it's that we are serious people, but we're also people of joy, people of celebration, people who know that God has the power for all of us as individuals to change our lives, turn our lives around, and to show us how much we are loved. So that's the tension of Advent. There are lots of things in this world that we need to go through. It's not easy. It's not an easy season. But we can't just jump straight to Christmas. So I urge you, and I'm sure, it's something I'm trying to do myself this Advent, because it still feels like, I think this, we're all kind of recovering from what's happened the previous 18 to 2 months. We're all finding it hard in many ways, and we know that the risks and with Omicron and all that kind of thing is still going on. There's lots of things that we're still recovering from and working out. We're still recovering. And the church is still recovering. But now is the time in Advent to face up to those things, face up to our relationship with God, and spend some time with Him. What are the things that we need to change? What are the things that we need to do? How as a church do we take responsibility for this world? How do we make Walker and Byker a more loving and caring place? Amen.